Hello and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I'm your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, the same people that are joining me on this week's podcasts that will be up later this week, Michael Damiani.
Yo.
Brad Ellis.
Yo.
And Daniel Bloodworth.
Yo.
This is a special Love and Respect episode. For those of you tuning in on a Friday, you're like, wait a minute. This is a different intro. This is a different day. What's going on? This is a special bonus on behalf of our patron party this week. For the next hour or so, we will be going through a series of love and respect questions. It's our $5 tier on Patreon. Thank you so much for everybody at that tier asking these questions. This will be public, even though the podcast will still be going up on Sunday public for everyone this week. But again, for just $5, you can get that and other things early. You can get the podcast on Fridays. But because we got no corrections, we got no sponsors, we got nothing. We can roll directly into all the love and respect questions. Kicking it off, Kartik T. Howdy Allies. The other week, Bloodworth mentioned that people who come up with the box art are underappreciated in the gaming industry. And that got me thinking, does the back of a game box matter anymore? Sure, it makes for fun bets to see how many cows are on the back of a box or something, but it feels like a relic of the pre-internet past. I remember the good old days of walking into a Blockbuster or a game shop and having to go through different game boxes to see what looked cool or what descriptions caught my attention. But these days, that stuff can be found in seconds on the internet with tons of trailers, reviews, gameplay that'll give you exactly what you're looking for. If I'm buying a physical copy of a game, I already know what my game has to offer and don't need the back of the box to basically be an ad for a game I'm getting. So my question is, what do y'all think would be a better alternative to what we have now? Is it even worth having an alternative if the industry is moving towards digital? Back of the box.
I love back of the box, man. I still think it has value. Especially a lot of people who aren't as, in sync with the game industry. Your moms, your dads, you maybe don't know. Grandparents are, just people who don't pay attention as much as a game. I think it's really good, especially for older games, too. Maybe I'll find a game and I don't know what the hell it is. I've never seen before, and I look at the back of the box, I'm like, oh, this is sick. I'm going to pick this up. It's happened numerous times.
Yeah, I think particularly something like how many players a game supports is pretty important on the back of a box.
Yes.
You know, you look at this and oh, yeah, this looks like a fun multiplayer game. You turn it around, it's like, oh, one player only. Okay, probably not this one, you know? So yeah, I think it's definitely it's definitely that informational part of it is important, and yeah, you want at least some screenshots, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to see some sense of what that game's going to be. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by people racing cars outside.
Woo! Yeah, it might be Huber. That was the original thumbnail, science of just what screenshots from our game would look good if you shrink them down to a level that they should not originally, be viewed at.
Yeah.
How close is box art to your heart, Damiani?
I really like the old school box arts. Thinking back to for me, it was NES and Super Nintendo. Even if you didn't, it was just something nice. Even going into a store and you had no intention of buying a game, it was just really cool to go look at all the boxes, flip them over the back, and it was not always just the screenshots. There would be some cool character art or something on there. And also, I know it now, it's more marketing speak. That at the time, it felt almost like it was part of the experience and the start of kicking off the narrative for some of these games, especially more a little bit more RPG action adventure style games. There'd be a little bit of a synopsis, but they kind of dress it up to make it sound way more enticing, and that definitely felt I enjoyed that a lot. I think now maybe that part of it isn't necessarily so for newer stuff. I don't think it's as essential to have that type of stuff on the box. I think I'm more with blood that having the correct information on the box, and if you need to use the back, it's important. A more dry description of this is it's a multiplayer game, and you have some screenshots show what it looks like, so you can tell okay, I know, just to inform the consumer what they're getting into.
How many gigabytes is this for my
yeah, but at the same time, I wonder how many
terabyte hard drive.
It definitely needs to satisfy that at the very least, but it also makes me think about how many young people might just pick up a box and they've never played a game before, and if it was more in the style of what I remember from my youth, and it's something that's way more captivating, gets your imagination running wild, and you're hooked. You say to yourself, yo, I want to try this out. This is pretty cool. Look at this hand drawn art. Look just it's a Nomura illustration on the back of a Kingdom, the new Kingdom Hearts game, and you're like, what is this? Why are the Kingdom Hearts characters, like, why are the Disney characters, and who are these other characters? Oh, man. But, if you just have a description on the back and it says single-player adventure, and it's just like Square, and it says, like, all the side stuff, that could get boring. I don't know. I think it still has a place. I think it still has a place. It has some appeal still.
I'm trying to remember who it was. I had some guesses, but another thing that I know there's some people that really appreciate and show off is disc art as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I get sad. Some
limited
DVDs,
medium.
it's just the circle around the middle, and I'm like, what?
Man,
I can't even. What?
This makes me lament the instruction manual, the death of that.
Oh yeah, that's certainly dead and buried.
I know that's not part of this discussion. That's never coming back. But man, some of those old school instruction manuals are so integral to my experience with early games, and now it's just does not exist. You can't get that back.
I love back of the box art for two main reasons. One, a lot of games are either like way before their time or way after their time. A lot of old stuff that you can check out in like Atari 2600 or maybe like some TurboGrafx 16 game that you missed. If I was to show you, it might be kind of tricky for you to guess what year that came out. Whereas box art just dates a game so hardcore. There's some box art that you just can't shake. Shout out to, Ben from MinMax, who loves to do, box art, the quotes, and just kind of guessing like what these are referencing, which brings me to the other reason why I love it. Same reason I love trailers is just that, like, the desperate elevator pitch vibe of just like, how do we encapsulate the entire game, not only in an image for the front of the box, but just like, what paragraphs do we pick? How do we write that? I often wonder, I think Jeff Keighley started writing some of that stuff. I think that was one of his original jobs. So it's just fun to see like the back of the box being like, oh, okay, that's the vibe you were going for, I wonder what games have been released in the past where developers are like, no, or there's some box art that they just didn't approve, had no clearance over whatsoever.
Had that IGN watermark on that.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe will they ever do something again like Metal Gear Solid, the back of the box?
Oh, sure, all that stuff. Yeah.
That clever stuff.
Yeah. We were talking. Was that the Q&A? What were we talking about with that? Where like you had to dissolve something in water. Yeah.
Oh, that's Star Tropics.
Yeah, Star Tropics.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Bringing Star Tropics up again.
Merrill's codec.
From Patton Werner, is there such a thing as next gen for PC? Greetings, allies. In the past few years, I've been primarily gaming on my PC and enjoying it so much that I don't feel the need to upgrade to the next console generation. This is a strange feeling for me since I have owned nearly every console since the NES. This also poses a strange question. Is the PC always next gen? I've seen a lot of coverage by yourselves and others regarding how Sony and Microsoft are handling the next gen graphics of current titles, and I was curious to know how this works on PC. For example, will the PC version of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War look and feel the same as the PS5 or Xbox Series X version? PC never gets mentioned in these discussions, so I figured it was the case, but I thought that I asked the experts. All right. Keep up the great work. Love and respect, Patton. A very general graphics-based next-gen question, but it is the bonus Love and Respect episode. It'd be kind of fun to take the time, to go through it. And I think we have talked about this, obviously, because we've talked about performance, but I do feel we kind of beat around the bush in terms of, I know Ian loves to talk about the value of just Xbox versus a PC if you already own one.
So kind of my take on this is the consoles are sort of the floor on a lot of things, because particularly with, everything being cross-platform for the most part, there's definitely some things like a flight simulator that's traditionally been PC, but that's coming to consoles eventually too now. So I think wherever that baseline of the consoles is, you can expect the PC to dress that up. But as of right now, there aren't really developers that are pushing for the highest spec PC builds because that's a very small consumer base, and most people that have PCs can't run things at that level. So they're going to go for the console as their kind of their baseline. That's what people can expect out of a game. And then the PC, okay, you can lower the settings if you need to, or you can raise the settings to take advantage of better lighting and better shading and higher frame rates and all of that. So essentially, yeah, the PC is going to get those next gen benefits in the next year or two alongside as the consoles, because once those things become standardized, like the high speed SSDs, like you can get those on the PC, but are there games taking advantage of them? Not too many, not that much. Once that starts to be expected on a console, then PC games are going to really have to, adopt that kind of stuff as well. And at some point, they're going to have to say, like, you need one of these to run our game. So,
Damiani, as somebody who technology-wise enjoys the best of all things, is this generally a good thing that consoles are always kind of nipping at the heels of PC? That's essentially PC is raising the bar and consoles have to catch up. Is that why we get to have nice things like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X? Microsoft, a company that invests in PC, almost as much as they invest in consoles.
Well, I mean, yes. The simple answer is yes. But at the same time, it's not necessarily consoles that are driving PC to push further. It's the fact that I think that the consoles and PC architecture have become so similar. As developers, as these hardware manufacturers decided to forego more proprietary routes with their technology and start to adopt components that are more widely used in standard PC builds. And thus you now have where the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S are using AMD's DNA2 GPUs, which we're going to actually find out about very soon here. They're having AMD's having an event for that, and those will become available, like different versions of those GPUs will become available at some point in the near future for PC owners. So I do think where console now pushes a little bit harder is that console has a larger market share, and I think it kind of drives where PC needs to aim for. So when these systems are being made and they're negotiating with especially the GPU manufacturers here with AMD, and they're telling them what they want, I think that helps. Obviously, they're getting millions of orders for that because they're going to sell millions and millions of consoles. And you look at GPU stuff, they don't sell millions and millions of GPUs like at the same end that you're getting in a console. I mean, just look at the NVIDIA's 3000 series has been kind of a disaster because they met like 7% of demand, and that's because they're like, oh, it's various difficulties. Whereas, while the pre-orders for PS5 and Xbox Series X have been like very hard to get, they're probably gonna be way higher volume of those available than that. So in that regard, yes, I think there has been there is some sharing of that ecosystem about one influences the other. I just feel that PC, when you're talking about PC for a long time now, it's been more synonymous, I feel, with like the mobile phone market, especially the smartphone market, where it's usually about like a 2-3 year refresh rate. I mean, some smartphones are like on a yearly refresh rate, but we're pretty much getting new GPUs like every 2 years. And there's like half steps in between sometimes in the years in between. So maybe with PCs, it's more about you have to constantly keep on your end to keep up with to make it next gen. You have to like stay on top of that. Whereas with a console, it's put together. It's a low end pre-built essentially for you, if you want to put it that way, and you don't have to worry about a lot of the stuff. It usually is sometimes a closed ecosystem, and it's something that you expect to always work and not have to deal with a lot of the issues you run into with a PC. But again, what Blood said, if you want the most potential for in general, you will go with a PC. But that's not always the case anymore because sometimes games are optimized more for a console version and we'll see a PC port be disastrous because the publisher didn't put a lot of effort. In theory, it should be the best version, but sometimes it doesn't always end up being that way.
Apropos of nothing, it was a fun current gen game that I'm now playing on PC because it was $5 on Steam, and I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Mad Max, a game that has just super bare bones character models, but like the smoke, like especially in the distance, the way that horizon kind of plays out. And again, it's like it's all brown, and so it's like they really have to have very strong, bold, different variations of color and shading and stuff. And I was like, ooh, that smoke in the background is pretty. Max is not, but that smoke in the background is pretty. And it's something that also might be slightly off topic, but it just occurred to me, especially now as we're going into like next gen, and this has nothing to do with performance, but like marketing wise, you know, you have a game like League of Legends, you have stuff like MMOs that are just doing incredible, even WoW, which is like, you know,
Right.
Brad, you're so frustrated with WoW in general, but like that, it's going to be big. Like that, you know, I imagine a lot of people will be playing that. Aren't advertised nearly as much. Something like a Baldur's Gate 3 is not advertised like, you know, a fraction of how much something like Miles Morales or, you know, whereas if you talk about depth and maybe some, you know, just the, you know, like you're talking about here, the difference in look and feel versus PS5, Xbox Series X versus PC. It's just something that I guess PC's like, we have our audience. We don't need to
I think WoW gets plenty of ads.
market it
but-
as
It
much.
does. Yeah.
WoW
it's
is
one
the
of the-
exception. I mean,
it's one of the
Blizzard's,
few.
Blizzard's the exception for sure, but just interesting in terms of like
But yeah.
where, you know, where my attention is going to try to be pulled, you know, at the end of this quarter. It's like
It is.
not
It
really
is
towards
curious
PC
that
exclusives.
they've never taken the step of, hey, let's sell a console version of WoW with a mouse
Yeah.
and keyboard. You know.
No, not at all. Like that's
Or
Hearthstone and iOS
controller
was such a big
support.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they put StarCraft on N64. It's like so weird. They put like Warcraft 1 or something on PS1 too.
From Mikey Mizek Novak. A game. Deluxe Edition Doozie. I have been getting confused with game prices and SKUs recently. There are varying prices for current and next-gen games, and it's not always obvious if you're paying for a higher-priced standard edition or some special deluxe, as the naming scheme is far from consistent. Below are some non-standard deluxe edition names, and you must guess what the game is. It is from a few choices. Bonus
Yes.
points if you can guess without multiple choice. Love and respect to Mizek. So, for example, the first one is Unsanctioned Edition. Does anyone know just right off the top
Sanctioned.
what that game would be? And we have 3 options that you can pick between those. So
Oh, we do have options.
Nobody's biting.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm curious to see if anybody can guess
You
it
get the
before we
most
get to the
points.
options.
You
But
get-
our 3 options are Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Splinter Cell Blacklist, or Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2
Is it Splinter Cell?
Vampire?
Unsanctioned Edition.
Vampire?
I'm going with Splinter Cell.
I'll go with Splinter Cell.
Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2. What made you think that, Brad?
I don't know.
Unsanctioned.
Just
I mean,
Fit.
unsanctioned. It doesn't. I mean, that sounds to me. Yeah, that sounds like a government operation. That.
Yeah, that's a good, he got you.
Yeah.
The Super Dangerous Wad Wad Edition.
Wad.
It's very specific, but I don't
I
know
have
what
no
it is.
idea.
Is it Borderlands 2 specific, Saints Row 4 specific, or No More Heroes 2 specific?
No More Heroes 2.
Sure. I'll go with
Saints
that too.
Row?
Sorry,
Really?
Damiani?
Good
I
one.
go with No More Heroes as well.
No. Saints Row 4. Again, Brad,
Yeah.
you're crushing
Go,
it,
Brad.
dude.
Lucky guesses all around.
The post-pandemic edition. Wouldn't we
Oh
love
my.
Wouldn't we love the post-pandemic edition of anything right now? This one's pretty on the nose.
Oh, this is
This is
Division,
not-
isn't it?
This is not an obscure franchise. This is pretty. I mean, the choices are all pretty on the nose as well.
The Division, right?
No.
No.
That's a good guess. It is either The Last of Us, Dying Light, or State of Decay.
Oh wow.
State of Decay?
Dying Light.
Yeah, I can't pick out of those 3. They're all perfect. I don't know.
Last of Us is a little more perfect though for the win.
Oh.
Dying Light,
that's
State of
funny.
Decay are kind of your standard zombie apocalypse. Where Last of Us is definitely more pandemic focused, I think. Love is Over edition.
Oh, that's Catherine.
Yeah.
Bonus
nice.
points.
That must be recent, right? Was that was the remaster, or was that just like a special? Or
I don't know which
or
version's
a
for,
new
but that's
version
the name of the special edition. And Love is Over is a phrase from that game.
And it was not Leisure Suit Larry 6, which is a great call, or Bayonetta. High Stakes edition. High stakes.
High stakes.
Need for Speed Payback?
Wait,
Good
that's-
guesses on all of these, but none
Good
of these.
guess.
Are
Call of
Michael
Duty?
Huber.
It is either Dead Rising 2, Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 2, or Fallout New Vegas. High stakes.
Fallout New Vegas.
Fallout? Yeah.
He got you. Dead Rising 2.
Shit.
Which was Vegas, right? Because he was a stuntman.
Yeah.
It was.
We did a full playthrough of that, and I don't know what version we bought. Couldn't tell you the name. Huber and I.
Wish You Were Here edition. Wish You Were Here. Far Cry 3, Silent Hill 3, or Dead Island 2. Silent Hill
Island
3 and
2?
Dead Island 2 being the joke, I guess, there. If it was called that.
I'll go with Dead Island 2.
Yeah, same.
Ha, you're wrong. Far Cry 3.
Shit.
Wish You Were Here. And finally,
Far Cry 3 is so weird.
Balls of Steel edition.
Duke Nukem, right? Forever?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Who else would do that?
Yeah.
Saints
Pretty
Row, I
much.
don't know. Some of those
Saints Row
movies we
would.
see on this list, possibly. Nice. From Drew Garg, I'm going to read the original post. And then we get a follow-up to this. So this was from...
Okay.
Here's the text from my original question 2.5 years ago. Hello, allies. Last
2.5 years ago. Nice pull.
Hello, allies. Last week, you and many others awarded either a perfect or near-perfect score to the upcoming God of War game. This surprised a large part of the gaming community and personally sealed the deal for my pre-order. This response has occurred several times in the past with Sony-exclusive story-driven titles of both old and new IP alike, such as Uncharted, The Last of Us, and Horizon Zero Dawn. My question to you allies has two parts. Both of these questions are two parts, by the way. Druvgard can't get enough. Do you think that Sony should continue down this path at the risk of fatiguing the audience, or do you think that's a non-issue? And what do you think Microsoft needs to do to garner a similar scale of reputation? Should they focus on story to directly compete, or find their own niche? Again, thank you for all the hard work you guys do. Love and respect to Druv Risen Garg.
What, does it mean focus like on what? Third-person narrative-driven action stuff?
I think more the exclusives, just kind of like the string of huge specific,
Wait, we're answering a question from 2 years
Sony
ago?
exclusive
That's
story-driven titles. Yeah, story-driven being the genre focus. But,
Yes, they work. They sell.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
why
they
keep
definitely
doing
work.
But you recall that conversation. There's a big single-player games. We like them. You know,
Yeah.
when Spider-Man came and did so well, and all these things kept reaffirming that. Well, Druv is back. I first wrote you about how the critical reception to God of War 2018 secured my pre-order. Then I asked questions about Sony-style narrative exclusives, their possible fatigue in the community, and what Microsoft needed to do to garner a similar scale of reputation. The gaming industry really is different now, huh? First of all, how does it feel to be featured so prominently in the Raising Kratos documentary for God of War? Secondly, see, two parts, can't get enough. Do you feel that Sony fatigue is finally hit with the divisive nature of Death Stranding and The Last of Us Part 2? Do you think Microsoft, with the recent studio acquisitions, is well on its path to garnering a similar scale of reputation as I once originally put? Thanks for everything, allies. Love and respect, Drew Risengard.
I don't think so. I think
Has
those
everything
are just
proceeded
narrative
as he has
choices.
foretold?
Like Death Stranding is just a weird ass game that's very unconventional. Like that's a weird game. And a lot of the Last of Us stuff, people I've seen that don't like it is the story. A lot of like the writing. I don't think there's any less value in that type of game though, where you're playing a third person going through something like that. I don't think that's changed at all.
I mean, like 3D All-Stars, I mean, for all the yelling about Last of Us, the game sold like crazy and a lot of people love it.
Yep.
So, yeah. So the two parts of the Microsoft thing, I think that they are on the path. It's not going to be the same path. They're not doing. They don't seem. I can't think of any of those studios that are really going to be approaching something in the way that these Sony third-person single-player adventures are. They seem to be.
Maybe they'll try Ninja Theory. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean Ninja Theory definitely with Hellblade. That's one that I think is the closest to it.
I mean, they own Elder Scrolls. It's,
That's a very different thing. Elder Scrolls is very different than what they're talking about.
Sure.
And I do think that is something that, as we talked about, we mentioned somewhere a couple of weeks ago, Sony doesn't have anything to compete with the gigantic mega RPG with lots of choice and dialogue. So, yeah, I'm very, very curious how those games are going to play out under Microsoft, and whether Sony does respond in any way. Sony does produce something like that because they're good with single player linear type games. They're good with single player open world type games, but they don't really do anything that does like a lot of this like branching and sandboxy, except for maybe Days Gone, but that's still even pretty different than like a Bethesda RPG.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
But if Sony can pull off God of War Ragnarok in 2021, I don't think Sony fatigue is going to like hinder that game at all.
But then that's the other part of the question, right? Do we feel weird about being in there? No. I mean, it's just...
Oh, how does it feel? No, just how does it feel? How does it feel?
How does it feel? It's fun.
Fine.
It's fun to see something like that pop up. It's like somebody has you sign a piece of paper.
Sure.
And then 8 months later, like, oh, that's what that was for,
Frankly, Blood happens all the time, now. So let's just brush it off. Cabbage Lad. With the rousing and continuing success of Ring Fit Adventure, what other use cases do you see for the Ring peripheral? Do you think it'll be reversed Reserved for a sequel, a different property, or just remain as a one-off? There's got to be a Ring Fit Adventure 2, right, Damiani?
Nah.
Maybe. I mean,
Nah.
not because of the lack of popularity and success. Well, I thought they were hard to get. I know. That's why it was 2 months ago. I think it was like charted again in the top 10, and it recently was back in like the top 20 again, I think. But for a long stretch there, it was just impossible to find. It was always sold out. So I wonder if it's more
Number 13 last month.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more of a product of the current situation we're in. It's just like the physical part of it might be harder to manufacture. So if there's a software sequel, sure. But I think it's still selling well. So I think it's, they're going to keep, I think, I wouldn't be surprised to see a sequel. But at the same time, if this is all they do with it, also would not surprise me.
Yeah.
That's a very Nintendo thing to do. Is a one-off thing and then move on from it and don't revisit it.
Well,
Yeah. They did make Wii Fit Plus, so that is a thing that exists. I think there's some other
Resort
random
2.
games, even like a Rabbids game that used the balance board.
I mean, Resorts 2 didn't use like an extra peripheral. It was just the Wii remote. But like Wii Sports,
Resort?
skyrocketed that thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, Wii Sports Resort was the sequel, right?
The sequel, yeah.
Right.
That was the
that came
Motion
with the
Plus.
Motion Plus, though. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like they waited
Yeah,
until
so
they
it
had
was.
a whole other thing.
It did have something extra. Damiani, just time travel a little bit. Did they botch that too? I remember it like taking so long to get a sequel to Wii Sports out, and it's like this is the biggest game of the year, sales wise. This is like breaking. This is setting records where we still haven't hit and may not hit for a long time.
No, so the thing was, in most of the world, Wii Sports was, or maybe I'm wrong, but at least in the United States, it was bundled with Wii. It wasn't sold separately. So it was tied to Wii sales. So Wii was selling well for many years. I mean, once it died off around, once 360 and PS3 started to catch up and eventually surpass the Wii, maybe that would have been the time to pull the trigger, but they already did. They already did Wii Sports Resort, so I think they did. I think it was just that was it. They wrote it as much as they could, and the sequel just didn't do nearly as well, and motion controls kind of got a little bit, faded from public eye. Like we saw, the ultimate end of all that was with Microsoft trying to force Kinect down on everybody, and they're like, we're done. No, we're done with all this. I mean, Kinect was a little bit worse than motion controls, but at the same time, I think consumers just like, we're over this. Let's move on. Next thing. Like, we don't need any more of this. So I don't think I don't think they waited too long to pop everything was selling out back then for good three-ish years with the Wii. The only thing they waited too long on was making HD. Wii U came at least 2 years too late. Wii U should have been at least 2 years before when it came out, and maybe it would have been a different story.
Well, also, I think, Wii Sports, the sales on the system, and with Wii Sports in particular, it wasn't an audience that was really going to buy a lot of more games.
Yeah.
It's like they bought the Wii, they had Wii Sports, that's all they needed. They were just going to do that. And maybe they would get something else if the kids came over and asked for a game. It's like, okay, let's go to Walmart and we'll pick up this Rabbids game. It's like,
exactly,
okay.
Blood.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other games that filled the shoes in that life cycle that took advantage of that. And I think Nintendo didn't need to. It became too saturated. I think time was up.
This is from Happy Gaming, and I want to give a shout out to Happy Gaming because this is a question that Happy Gaming has asked before. I didn't pick it repeatedly. And then I have the special Love and Respect episode, takes it out, dusts it off.
Nice.
Luck be a lady. Let's see if we'll get to it. It's an interesting conversation, but one, there was just other more relevant things. But talks about the business. And my wife being an actor, I love talking about this stuff. From Happy Gaming, there are some pretty big differences between the film and game industry, but something that continues to elude me is why video game industry is so secretive during studios' development processes. It's common practice in games for voice actors to not even know what role they're auditioning for, and when hired on, will even then need to sign NDA forms to keep the projects as secretive as possible to the public until the game is officially revealed. This is in stark contrast to the film industry, where it's extremely common to know about what projects years ahead of time, who's gearing up for what roles, seeing pictures on sets and crew and costume early in development, development, even before trailers are officially released. It's strange to think that even if someone big in the film industry like Mark Hamill, who does a lot of voice work, signs onto a video game project, he may not even know his role yet, and in the eyes of that company, his inclusion wouldn't be big enough buzz to garner attention or be a potential selling point. Many voices aren't even accurately represented on sites like IMDb. The crew, in addition, becomes a mysterious trove of talent to dig up. Is this right? Are we as consumers showing in some way that we are more interested in how a project scores rather than how it's made and by whom? Should the video game industry be this secretive? I feel like we should have a lot more appreciation for the development process and the resumes of actors and artists alike if we were allowed a more trickled amount of information from people here and there that isn't necessarily leaked. Personally, I think that showcasing voice actors audiences can be excited about is something audiences can be excited about, or hearing statements from writers or crew members would give them more acclaim and go a long way to make the industry a more deeply thought about place than just a score at the end of development. Whew. So what the heck? Why don't we hear from these people when games are developed? I know the answer. I'm curious what you think.
I'll say is I think if they announced all this stuff, it could be a very, very, very long time until the game actually came out. We've seen this happen before where games get announced way too early and it takes forever. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake got announced 2015. It came out 2020. A lot of people were pissed that it took that long. I don't know if gamers want to wait that long if they know about something coming.
Exactly. It's like the exception rather than the norm in the film industry. Like development hell, like films that like take forever to make and stuff, that is the rarity. Whereas like when like Marvel unveils like their phase whatever plans, they give dates. They have like dates and stuff years in advance because they know it's not a matter of. I think there's more of a technical things that can go wrong with game development that you can't just say no matter what we're shipping something out. You can have an incomplete game. You can have an incomplete game that will not work. You can have an incomplete movie and do some editing, and this is a movie where you still can watch and enjoy it. It will play on a projector and work, but it's like it might be a shit movie, but some marketing and hype dollars behind it, maybe it makes its money back. Or a game, it's like you can't even play this. Like it's broken. So I think it's just there is a little bit apples to oranges. I think when it comes to how you make each of these products, but I do agree with Brad. The long-standing problem with this game industry is if you announce things and they take forever to come out, it's now developers are scared of that. They know that's a bad thing, and I don't think not trying to say making a movie is easy. I think making a movie overall is probably less dependent on. I think it's easier to get it out the door so someone can watch it whether it's good or bad versus a game. And so there's some mitigating factors that will prevent a game from. I could say. Final Fantasy Remake Part 2. They could have announced it the day after. Hey, it's coming out on April 21st, 2022. Expect it then. It's like so much shit could go wrong between. Like it's more likely something can go wrong with a game than with a movie. I feel like so like it's irresponsible, and I think that's why. But it's not the whole thing. I don't want to take. I'll see what you guys think, but I also think part of it is the hype cycle. Gaming relies so much on marketing and the hype cycle. I think. It is just all about that, and while that exists in the motion picture industry, oh man, there's no industry like the game industry when it comes to like hype and hyping stuff up and like reaction stuff like that. We know the best, we know very well about this, and this is just, it's just one of the biggest differences I think between them. So keeping stuff secretive is very important to them, so that they can have very calculated reactions to things, because even the existence of a game is like a big deal. Just like that's the surprise is this game exists. Where in movies it's like, oh, we're expecting this to exist. It's not. Oh, that's cool. It's coming. That's a big deal. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Damiani's actually said a lot of things that are right. Like, a game has to be built. It has to work. And so and I think too that. Because there's also like this question of like, well, is it fun? We've iterated on all these ideas, but are they fun? Do they work? And then you get into testing, and it's like, yeah, this isn't fun. We've got to destroy this, and
burn it in a fire.
Do something else.
Yeah.
It's like restart projects. Like again, you look at like Rocksteady, and like people are like, why is it taking them so long to make a game? It's like, because there were probably a few other games that didn't get this far. And so, I think that's just far more the norm to where like people can put a lot of time and a lot of money into something, and it's just not coming together, and it's got to go. The other thing, though, and I think is maybe more historically relevant than current relevance, but again, you go back to Wii Sports, that thing had to be a secret. Like, Nintendo had to make that thing in secret, because once people saw, the magic of what the crap Nintendo was working on that was entirely outside of what anybody else was thinking, then it's like, people would be rushing to catch up and to beat them to market. It's kind of like, well, again, like you see the Disney puts out a movie, and then some guy's got like, the crappy version of it sitting in the grocery store out. And Nintendo knew they had to have the time to get it all right and put it out there. And, granted, that isn't a game that would have any kind of voice acting or anything really to speak of. But I think that those same kind of philosophies carry over into all of game development tours. Like, we've got to hold on to the crazy things that we're making, because if we take too long, somebody else will take our ideas and put it out there before we do.
Brad, what's the last time you got excited about something being cast in a video game?
Someone being cast in a game?
Yeah, finding out an actor was in a game. You're like, oh, sweet. It's not
I don't know.
It's not a dig at actors. I'm just curious.
No. I just don't know, really.
Here's the main thing, just from an industry perspective, directly comparing games. It's the voice actors they bring in very, very late into a game's development. So you can imagine like working on something for that long, and then finally, like at the end of a game's dev cycle, being like, oh, that's what that weirdo sounds like. To me, comparing voice actors to the film industry, I would compare them more to special effects and like post-production stuff, because like Blood was saying, like you don't need voice acting for your video game. There's lots of games that don't have voice acting. You don't need special effects for your movie either, and so there's a lot of stuff for special effects. People be like, I'm not, special effects, I think, gets the same non-recognition that voice actors. Like there are some things like a Lord of the Rings or some, Weta, or like companies that Blur, doing trailers, and like these names, you get excited for stuff that they work on, but there's all sorts of other things. There's 20, 30, 40 companies, different companies will work on like a big film and get like, shitty pay, not a lot of job security. And it's just kind of like the same thing with voice acting, where it's just kind of like, acting gets the forefront in film because they're the ones really boots on the ground right when a project starts. And that's why devs kind of get blown up in the popularity cycle in gaming, because they're the ones that have the most to talk about, that, are really helming a project. And I could see it catching up. I think this is still kind of a product of how the industry worked beforehand, where like it really took upon a lot of devs for me to be like, no, I want to be in the booth. Like I worked on the game, I want to talk to the actor, where like a lot of times doesn't happen. I remember Max von Sydow. I talked to the guy who directed Skyrim, who's a buddy of mine, and directed the voice acting specifically. And he's like, I was like, oh, you got to work with Max von Sydow? And he's like, no, he worked with the developers, because the developers were like, hey, Max von Sydow. And they were like, we really want this opportunity to work with him. And so he's like, yeah, Sydow worked with a whole different team. So you have Sydow talking to you and other characters. And it's like, he was in a room with a whole different group of people. And so there's weird barriers between those people working together, and weird delays when it comes to stuff in games. But hopefully it's catching up.
Yeah.
Felt like Avengers was a different thing. They definitely were like all of them on a couch.
Right.
Like, hello.
Yeah.
Death Stranding was another one. Like that was.
Oh, of course, all the Kojima games.
Yeah, Kojima does that. One thing I want to add, is from my best understanding is, well, I agree. It's definitely getting better for games that are more story driven, that have a lot of use of voice work in them. They're getting better at making it clear, like the billing, who is a part of this, not just in the credits, but also like the marketing materials. But from my understanding, from like even like the 360, PS3, Wii generation and earlier, I understand, like there used to be a lot of JRPGs where people are like, who did that voice? We got to guess by, do you remember that voice? Can you tell who is that? Because from my understanding is that it was something to do with unions and not necessarily like doing maybe under the table stuff, because some of those actors were involved in other industries, and video game companies wanted to use them. And they're like, well, we don't have the budget for that, but if you're willing to do it and like not have your name on it, or something like that, as explained to me one time, is that it was how it was back then. But obviously things have changed. There's been people have been like, give them the credit where credit is due, pay them, fair wages and stuff like that for the work that they did, and give them the recognition they deserve.
Totally random, completely off topic VO win. Animaniacs back on Hulu. All 5. Pinky and the Brain and the 3
really?
Animaniacs
Cool.
are original voice actors.
Nice.
Kicking ass. Sounds like they didn't skip a beat, man. They all sound fantastic.
I'm excited for that. Someone told me the reason they're not excited for that is because besides those characters, none of the other Warner characters are in it, like from the original show.
And
they're
I think
worried
it's only
that the
like
show...
8 it's like 8 or 13 episodes or something. It's not a huge order, but
Yeah, I'm like excited, but they were like, no, how can you carry a show without all those characters? People are gonna find really fast it's gonna get like repetitive. I'm like, really? I was like, I don't know. It hasn't even come out yet. What are you talking about?
I'm excited. Mandalorian's back. A lot of fun stuff.
It looks past my eye test. I was like, yeah.
Nick Savak, hello allies. I've got a game for you all that I like to call Dollar Duel. The objective is simple. Of the 2 games listed, which one commands the higher price? For these matchups, I'm using pricecharting.com, a nice plug, pricecharting.com, a website that acts as an aggregate to assign prices for video games on the secondhand market. All of the games' prices will be based on the CIB, complete in-box listings. The monetary values are in US dollars and are based off the North American versions of these titles. Love and respect, Nick. Round 1, Final Fantasy VII versus Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII.
Crisis Core is probably more.
Crisis Core wins, I believe. Oh no, Crisis Core loses 27.47. Final Fantasy VII. Crisis Core is only 23.06. $23.06.
I didn't think they were expensive.
on average.
Because even the international version of Final Fantasy VII was really cheap, like 2
Yeah.
or 3 years ago to import. I was like, I thought that was gonna be expensive.
But that PSP would be a rare one. And,
They made a lot of copies.
And we went through that the other recently where we were playing. You played, Damian, I think, Crisis Core, right? And it was like,
I played a little bit of it. Yeah.
Round 2, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess on the GameCube versus The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64.
That's hard.
I think it's Twilight Princess on GameCube, right?
So Twilight Princess on GameCube is a much rarer
Yeah.
game than Ocarina of Time. I don't follow. If you'd asked me this 10 years ago, I could tell you instantly. But like, all I know is that like apparently older games are getting way more expensive lately. So I would 10 years ago I'd tell you Twilight Princess on GameCube easily. But
Today you'll tell me.
I would say N64 Ocarina of Time is probably, especially if it's. Did they say which
In
version?
box?
If it's
N64,
is
yeah,
it the
the original-
collector? Is it the gold
That
or
doesn't-
is it?
Complete in box, just the North American versions, just the regular.
Not very helpful, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, even I would say Ocarina of Time's more expensive now, maybe.
It is $87.27
Look at
versus
it.
Twilight Princess at 83. Still,
Oh, yeah, that's
wow, they're
close.
both
Still
priced that.
high. Yeah, it's interesting because I've been hearing that like a lot of the market has been shifting again to stuff like this, like the iconic games. Even though that they may have been more plentiful, people just like they just want their Super Mario Brothers, or whatever, rather than this ultra rare thing that's like in a prototype cartridge and there's only like 3 of them that exist. That used to be where the market was, and now there's just more collectors that want the more
Iconic
identifiable thing. Yeah.
Crackdown versus Crackdown 3.
Oh, jeez. Crackdown 3.
Yeah, I'll say Crackdown 3,
A physical
I guess.
copy of Crackdown 3, maybe? Yeah.
Crackdown.
Crackdown 3. Ooh, wrong blood. $9.73. The
Ah,
OG
$9?
Crackdown.
It's so low.
Get
It's so low.
the original Crackdown you can get for a steal $5.45 for the original Crackdown.
Wow.
I would buy the original. I'd love to replay the original Crackdown. Round 4, Silent Hill versus Resident Evil 3 Nemesis on the Dreamcast.
Oh,
Silent Hill
shit.
PS1 versus Nemesis Dreamcast.
Oh, Nemesis Dreamcast.
Yeah, I was going to say Dreamcast probably.
I'll go Dreamcast.
Nay, Silent Hill on the PS1 is
shit.
almost $100, $99.68.
Oh, I thought 2 was the rare one. Okay.
RE3 is $72.47. Nothing to
Alright,
shake a
way
stick
more
at.
test
That's
games.
way more
yeah.
money I thought either of those would be. Holy shit.
And finally, Fallout 76 on PlayStation 4 or E.T. the Extraterrestrial on the Atari 2600. What is more
That's
expensive?
a funny one.
Fallout 76?
Fallout.
Yeah.
on the
I'm
PlayStation
gonna go
4.
with Fallout.
No.
Yeah.
Fallout.
Yeah. ET.
Yeah.
$32.75. Fallout is $8.97.
I was gonna say that because there's no copies of ET. I was just gonna say that doesn't exist, so it's a troll question. 0.
Nick adds,
There are
P.S. I
copies.
actually
I
enjoyed
know.
Fallout 76, but I couldn't resist. Thank you.
That's
Nick.
okay.
Oh, I wanted Fallout to win so badly.
I played ET back in the day.
Kamini342. I'm a big advocate of the idea that the inclusion of co-op can make even bad games great. 2020 seemed to be a bit lacking in the co-op department. Co-op-centric games like Avengers and Borderlands
Wouldn't
3.
know it around here.
You around what, the Bloodworth
Online
household or
co-op,
Easy
at
Allies
least.
or
No, the Easy Allies. There's any co-op opportunity.
Oh, we cherish for
keeps
sure.
taken advantage of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lots of during our patron party, lots of co-op action happening. My most enjoyable co-op experiences this year have co-op centric games like Avengers and Borderlands 3 didn't seem to have much of an impact on Arrival. Avengers definitely stumbled. Borderlands 3 kicked its usual ass, right, Blood? I mean, Borderlands 3 is doing great.
What,
They're talking
financially?
about putting
Yeah.
out more
They
skill
both
trees
did
and stuff, and
really
yeah,
well.
Oh, what we were just saying, yeah, Avengers. I mean,
they got that next gen lockdown. Like, yeah, I think that's doing fine.
my most
Yeah.
enjoyable co-op experiences this year have been with older games such as Guacamelee 2, Diablo 3, and Monster Hunter World. What have been some standout co-op releases of 2020 for each of you?
Streets of Rage 4.
Haha.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What was the
Yes.
puzzle game that Huber and Ian played? That was fun to watch.
Oh, I don't remember what that
Like
was called.
super puzzle.
Shoot.
All they did was puzzles, man. It was, and the puzzles took a long time.
that
Each one
game.
took like 20
I don't even
minutes
know
or
if that
something.
came out this year.
Oh, it was just like early access.
No, I mean it might have been like
An older game.
Older
Yeah.
game
Oh.
from a couple years back. But yeah, I'm not good at doing
Battletoads,
anything
probably,
off
right?
the top of my head. But,
Battletoads, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head.
but yeah, Battletoads is one I would pull off the top of my head either. Or everything. I wouldn't necessarily go with that route for picking it.
What was
Um,
the Savage Planet? Was that this year? Sorry, it's
Yeah, that was
pre-COVID,
Savage Planet,
so I can't even
yeah.
remember. Huber and I played do that like co-op. That game would probably be like by yourself. Co-op
I
totally.
mean, we just
made
talked
it
about
work.
the Ghost of Tsushima stuff.
Yeah.
That definitely counts.
Hubert, what did Hubert and I play this year? But that was like this year that came out though.
And
We
just
played
stuff
older
like
shit.
Dead by Daylight and
Dead by Daylight's been
uh,
out for years. for
right,
sure.
but that
Yeah.
stuff is still still going strong. Sea of Thieves, we've enjoyed a lot this year.
Yeah, for sure.
From Brandon Ray, hey there, allies. I recently had a discussion with a friend about our differences in play style, specifically the fact that I typically play one game at a time to completion, while my friend prefers to switch between a few games at the same time. It seems like the new Quick Resume next-gen feature is really catering to my friend's play style, whereas that feature is less appealing to me based on my habits. Do you anticipate using Quick Resume often? How many games do you typically play at the same time? Love, respect, B. Ray.
Max I'll play is like 2 at a time, usually. Ideally. I usually like to play one, period, and just finish it, but sometimes, you gotta play a couple.
Yeah, I tend, like, in terms of like what I prefer to do, I prefer to play through a game and then move on to the next one. But yeah, I just find myself having to hop around a bit just for covering games. It's like start 5 games and like I'm gonna finish all of these, and then I don't. But I guess there's things like you're saying, like hopping into something like Avengers or Fall Guys or Animal Crossing. That's like those things are always just going to sort of be there. Even like Smash Brothers, like, oh, new character, cool, pick it up.
Yeah.
They don't always really benefit from something like Quick Resume, but it is a nice thing. It's going to be a nice thing to like cut down on those loading times. Like even if I played this game 5 months ago, if it still has my save state or whatever, then like, oop, okay, I got to figure out what I was doing, but I'm right there.
Yeah, I generally play one game at a time. I mean, on my Switch Lite, I'll have a bunch of games, and like sometimes I'll toggle between them, but it's not generally newer games on that. Just I'll bounce between whatever's on my what's still downloaded on there just to kill some time.
I love to dabble. I'm dabbling all the time.
You're
baby.
dabbling for sure.
Ooh,
Dabbling.
I love it. Checking something out. I'm never, I'm always 2 clicks away from a GTA Online sesh. Let's do it. Let's do a race really
2
quickly.
clicks.
What level am I? Oh, right. Okay. Bye, GTA Online. See you next year. Yeah, the holidays. Fun time to jump into that game. And if mobile, I play all the time, so I love to dabble. Feel spoiled. Garrett Zamora, love respect. Hey, allies. What is the weirdest or most elaborate thing you've done to create or preserve your own headcanon in a game? For example, I'm very proud of this. Great job, Garrett. I was a day one player of World of Warcraft back in the day, and even though I am a diehard Final Fantasy XIV player now, I'll still go back to WoW to check out new expansions from time to time when there's a lull in waiting for a new patch in Final Fantasy XIV. My first ever character was an Orc Warrior, and every time I go back to play through new content each expansion, I will update the look of my character so that he looks older and more war-torn. Longer hair, beard, scars. He used to have black hair, but now his hair is completely white. Those kind of things. There may even be a day where I retire him for good and make a new warrior that I would consider to be something like his son or someone who looked up to him. And in Final Fantasy XIV, when the first expansion came out, they introduced a new playable race, which I was very much looking forward to switching to. After I did, in order to preserve my headcanon of my character having gone through all the events up till that point, there's a feature in the game where you can go to an inn room and watch all the major cutscenes from quest events that you have cleared. And I went back and rewatched all of them with my new character just so that it all stayed consistent in my head. I even went as far as changing my gear as I progressed through the cutscenes, starting with low-level gear equipped up to having really cool-looking gear at later parts of the story.
Wow.
Have any of you guys done really weird things like this just for no one else's benefit but your own, or am I alone on this one? Thanks for keeping us smiling through the year that never ends. Love, respect, Garrett.
The only thing I can kind of recall recently is like Shinra building Buster Sword, where I was like, I have to have this here kind of thing, but that's about it.
I think for me, kind of them talking about gear and stuff, it reminded me of when I played, I didn't do this on the DLC, but when I played the main game for the Outer Worlds, everybody had civvies. So like when we were in town, like take off the armor, you put on the civvy clothes, and it was also a part of that was also like just managing inventory too, to where if you're on the ship, you don't need armor, dude. I don't need armor for every one of you guys. You just wear her armor when you go out, and you wear your civvies any other time. So, so I think that's maybe the most I kind of did that I can think of in the recent days.
Just to copy what they said, I don't do it like they do in 14, but at the very least, every expansion, I'll update my main character's job's look at the very least at some point. I'll whatever gear I get through the progression of the story, I'll equip. But at the end, like when I'm in like the end game, essentially, and going to the patch content, I'll fixate on a single look that I'll use, and then I might keep it for a few of the patches. Like I maybe change one more time during an expansion, but I like to like update the look of my character, and just to change it because they offer like so many good like glamour options, like casual clothing and stuff like that, and then like battle gear that looks cool as well.
I went through some silly mental gymnastics to try to headcanon organize the way that I was leveling up my Avengers.
Okay.
And again, this is deep and stupid, but this seems to be the theme of this question.
Yes.
Because I was like, I'm really into Cap, and like judging by the story, Cap makes a bit of a comeback in the story, and so I was like, okay, Cap's gonna be really focused, man. He's gonna hit the gym. If I've been gone for a while, I really want to focus on getting back in shape. So it's like, my two characters I played mostly as Iron Man and Cap. I'm like, makes sense that they would have a power spike. I don't know why Thor wouldn't have Thor should start that game with power level 150 as far as I'm concerned. He's like, I'm Thor. I've just went, was just hanging out on a park bench the last couple of years. Where have all of you been? But two characters I haven't played as, I've completely ignored, are Hulk and Kamala. And I figured Kamala's a newbie. It's like, hey man, well, officially you're an Avenger, but you're not in the group yet. So if I'm going to go on a 4-person squad, that's going to be Black Widow, Cap, Iron Man, and Thor, the original OG Avengers. And Hulk specifically, I get the vibe Hulk doesn't want to go if he doesn't have to. Banner's that type. He's like, I'd rather stay on the helicarrier. You see him in his lab. He's so happy. If you're back on the hub, you see, it just really seems like what he wants to do. It's fun to have the difference, but he's the only character. If you're walking around the helicarrier, you're Bruce. It's not like the Hulk, like, going through doorways and stuff. So it's just funny that he's like, I just put on this shirt. Dude, I got to rip it now to just do a daily, really? So that's where I settled on those 4 characters. But again, this is the headcanon. This is what, a lot of repetition in leveling up those characters. So as I'm doing these missions for the umpteenth time, I'm like, what is the stupid headcanon behind why I'm picking these 4 characters in relation to the story that they have written? Cesar Villa's got a game for us. Anomaly. A deviation from the common rule, type, arrangement, or form. Hello, allies. Here's a game I hope you'll enjoy. I call it Find the Anomaly. GT was known for being tougher reviewers than most outlets. Yeah. Apparently we've lost that, I guess, maybe at Easy Allies. I'm more tough on stuff than I used to be. Now that IGN owns all that content, I thought it would be fun to compare some review scores between both companies. Most of the time, GT scores were lower, but anomalies were found. Your task is to spot the anomaly, the game that GT scored higher than IGN in the following sets of games. Hope you enjoy it, Caesar. So what game out of these 4 in each of these stacks did we like more than IGN did? Here's Mario's domains: Super Mario 3D Land, Super Mario 3D World, Super Mario Galaxy, and Galaxy 2. Which one did we like more? Which one did we like more than IGN that we scored higher?
3D Land?
All of those we scored lower, other than one. No.
Oh.
Galaxy 2.
I need dummy.
And I know who reviewed all of those, so I'm trying to think.
Don't think too hard.
Maybe we gave... Did you already say no to one of them or no?
I'll say no to both. I'll say no to World, and you said World, right?
I said 3D Land.
He said
3D Land, sorry.
Because that's
no
what
to
I would've
3D Land.
guessed.
Oh,
You
okay.
just gave it away.
Yeah.
No. Galaxy 1 by 0.1. IGN gave that a 9.7.
Oh.
We gave that a 9.8.
Okay.
IGN gave that.
GT10.
That's not that big of a deal.
The only 10 on that list is IGN gave Galaxy 2 a 10. Really liked that.
Hell yeah.
Facing Death on Rails. Resident Evil, The Umbrella Chronicles, The House of the Dead, Overkill, Dead Space Extraction, and Resident Evil, The Dark Side Chronicles. Dark Side and Umbrella Chronicles.
3 out of those 4.
Nice. Dark Side and Umbrella were in the same series, I believe. Those were those light gun shooters.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Which one did we like more?
So were the Resident Evil, Dead Space, what was the 4th one? I know the
House
2
of the Dead,
Resident
Overkill.
Overkill, yeah.
Did
I'd
we
say
give
we
House of the
did
Dead
Dark Side
Overkill
more.
higher?
Dark Side Chronicle? I like that too.
House of the Dead Overkill.
Umbrella Chronicles. We dug so
Oh.
much. 8.3 from us, 7.9 from IGN. Square's DS Square Off. Final Fantasy 3. The World Ends With You. Final Fantasy The Four Heroes of Light. Or Bravely Default. Which one did we
What
like?
did you give The World Ends With You, Blood?
I don't know the number off the top of my head. It was into the 8s, or maybe a 9 at the most.
I'm going to say World Ends With
Final
You.
Fantasy 3 was before
No.
my time there, so I don't know who did that.
Heroes, the weird
Four
Heroes
Warriors.
game.
I feel like
of
Four
Light.
Warriors of Light might be the one because I
It
think
might
that
be
was
the one.
outsourced.
I don't know
I think
that
that
we
was.
would-
I think that was a freelance review from what I remember.
Hmm.
I think I actually
Yeah.
know who reviewed it,
Going with that.
but I might be wrong.
Bravely Default.
IGN gave Final Fantasy 3 a 7.8. We gave it an 8.2.
Jeez,
Oh.
And
that
we've
was-
heard
I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard you say a lot of negative things about that, Damiani, so I'm surprised. I think Hubert really digs that version. Here's Mario's diversions: Mario Kart 8, Mario Party 10, Mario Golf World Tour, or Mario Super Sluggers. Which one did we like more? Kart
Go
8,
through 'em
Party
again.
10,
I reviewed Mario Kart 8.
Golf,
I
or
don't know what I
baseball,
reviewed.
basically.
Party?
Golf World Tour, 8.5 to IGN's 7.
Golf.
Whoa.
World Tour. Which one
Sharp
was that one
difference.
again? I don't
That's like
remember.
3DS, huh?
Yeah. Mario Kart 8 got an 8.6 from GT. Who reviewed
That was
that one,
me.
Damiani?
Damiani,
Here's a cel-shaded extravaganza. We have Mad World, No More Heroes, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars, and Zack and Wiki Quest for Barbarossa's Treasure.
Nice.
What did we like more out of all of those?
Shit.
Man.
I don't think we gave China. I know we love GTA, but I feel like IGN probably would have given Chinatown Wars like a perfect or something.
No, 9.5.
Okay. I know they would have given it
What did
high.
we give it, though?
I don't know. I would go with. I know we gave Mad World like an 8 something, right?
Yeah, I'll go
8.5,
with Mad
yeah.
World.
Mad World. I don't know,
Let's
but
go
I
Mad World.
feel like IGN might have been harsher on that. I don't know.
They were not harsh on that. They gave that a 9 to our 8.5. But we liked No More Heroes a little bit more. 8.2 to their 7.8.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
No more heroes.
A tie is not optional. All but one had tied scores. Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective, Okamiden, Boom Blocks Bash Party, and Picross 3D.
Well, I reviewed
Oh,
Okami
man.
and I gave it an 8.
I still need to play Okami, Dan.
All of these were 8.5s, except for
Yeah.
one. Picross 3D. We gave an 8.7.
Ah.
Back in the
Nice.
days when we could do something like that. Those
That
all
was
important
me.
0.2 additions that needed to happen. Blood knew what that 0.2 meant. You might not know it now. Hyrule
I love the
Historia,
points.
Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. Which one did we
Phantom
like more?
Hourglass.
So which game did we give?
Which game did we like more?
Oh, wait, no, Spirit Tracks.
Like we
right?
liked more, so it's definitely going to
Spirit
be
Tracks,
Spirit
right?
Tracks because of that story, probably.
Mm-hmm.
As I had to, I don't think that game got higher than a 9 point something from IGN.
It did. 9.3 from IGN.
Then we give it.
A 9.
Wow.
Not Spirit
Okay.
Tracks.
What were the other ones?
Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and Phantom Hourglass.
Probably Skyward Sword then.
No, they gave that a 10, didn't they? I think they gave that a 10.
No, I think
Oh,
we
Skyward
gave
Sword,
it
they gave it 10. Yes, they
Yeah.
did.
IGN did, but we didn't give it a 10.
No.
We did not.
No.
We gave
No,
it a
it's
9.
which one? It's which one we
IGN
did higher.
Also, which one we did higher? Gosh, I'm getting it backwards now. I'm sorry.
IGN gave Twilight Princess a 9.5, but we bested it with our
was
9.7.
Who
Okay.
reviewed
Ah.
that?
for
Good
Twilight
job.
Princess.
That was
Yes.
2005, so 6.
That would have
so,
been most
6.
likely Shane.
Yeah,
That was 2006.
Two more.
before my time.
Here's Awada's Pink Legacy. Kirby Mass Attack, Kirby Squeak Squad, Kirby Return to Dreamland, or Kirby's Epic Yarn. Which one of these did we like
Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Epic Yarn.
more? Yeah.
Sure.
We gave it an 8.4. IGN bested that? IGN went higher?
9.0.
Jeez.
Or that was higher than IGN, you think? IGN went lower than that?
Jeez.
Than 8.4? They did not. 9 from IGN.
Jeez.
Oh, okay.
But the lowest of
remember
those
any
four
of
I
the
feel like
games.
games.
Squeak Squad Mass Attack. I don't even remember us
What's
reviewing.
Squeak? I don't even know what those
That's-
games are.
Return to Dreamland, they gave a 7.5, the lowest of all of these scores, where we thought it was all right. We gave it an 8.3. We dug that.
Okay.
That's better than all right.
I said tie not optional. Again, all of these were tied. All these were 9.0s except for one. Donkey Kong Country Returns, Resident Evil 5, Super Scribblenauts, and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. Which one did we dig? Who broke the streak and in what direction? Of a 9.0.
Captain Toad.
Which of these games from which outlet did not?
I
get
said
a
Captain
9?
Toad, right?
IGN didn't like that Captain Toad for some reason. 8.2. 8.2.
They don't get it.
They don't. That's
don't
the
get
last
it.
one on the list. Let's end on that note right there. They don't get it.
They don't get it.
At least with reviews of games that came out. What was Treasure Tracker? 6 years ago? Probably. Something like that. Who knows? Queuing up a correction. We're not doing corrections on this bonus episode. This is a
Nope.
Love and Respect
Nope.
episode. Yeah. Haha, there. Keep your corrections into that other episode. And speaking of, just to let you know, again, crazy what's going on. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me for this bonus Love and Respect episode. Thank you to everybody for mentioning stuff. Again, even people submitting for this hour-long episode, there were still a couple questions I didn't get to. So thanks everybody that supports us at that tier. Thank you for everybody that's been supporting us this week through the Patron Party. Again, if you've been listening to this and you were like, weird podcast this week, you get that Easy Allies podcast this Sunday. You can get it early if you're a $5 patron or above at patreon.com/Easy Allies. But if you are not, just wait till this Sunday. You'll get a brand new podcast episode featuring all of these jokers over here. But here's a little bonus for you because it is the Patron Party week. Thank you to our patrons and non-patrons, everybody that's been hanging out watching our content. This is all for you because you help make this happen. And thank you, gentlemen. I guess we can just say goodbye. How about that? Patron party. We'll say patron party. Patron party on 3. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, and then patron party.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Patron
Patron
party!
Yo! Duke Nukem, right? Forever? Yeah. Who else would do that?